Welcome to the VAT USA YouTube channel, where we bring you the latest news and interviews with some of the most fascinating people in the world of vatsim. Today we have a very special guest with us. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is David, and I'm an avid aviation enthusiast and an S2 in the New York Art Tech. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the world of aviation with XP72. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Streamer Interviews. Alrighty, I'd like to welcome you first of all. Thank you for coming on tonight's show. Today's the first episode. Thank you very much, XP, for coming on tonight.
Absolutely. I'm actually honored to be on your show, your first episode. Thanks for thinking of me. And, I don't know what I can contribute to this podcast, but I'll try my best. And, let me just say that I appreciate all the work that you guys do over there on the VATSIM network. For us sim pilots, it's just, I don't fly without VATSIM, put it that way. I don't. So I appreciate you inviting me on to talk a little bit with you guys, man. Absolutely.
So quick question before we start. Where does the name XP72 come from?
Ooh, I get asked that quite a lot. Well, let me give it a quick story on it. The first flight sim I ever looked at was DCS, and I didn't know it was a flight sim. It was like it was somebody in A10, and they were flying around. And at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, this is not real. It looked real to me. So I'm like, all right, I want to do flight simming. I was like, all right, I'm a former flight attendant. I like airline. I wanted to be a pilot at one point, and I'm a Mac guy as well. I had all Macs at the time. And the only game or flight sim I could play was X-Plane. And so I started X-Plane 9, 10, then 11. And they're like, oh, you need a username or something. I was like, X-Plane. Okay, I'll be X-Plane 1972. That was my full name. I think it's still up on YouTube as X-Plane 1972. And somewhere along the line, I think either before Microsoft came out or when Microsoft Flight Sim came out, I was like, all right, I need to change my name because I'm no longer doing X-Plane alone. I'm doing another flight sim. So
That is awesome.
I was like, yeah. And by that time, people started referring to me as XB. They're like, dude, I'm not even going to call you X-Plane, just XB. So I just went with it, XB72. That's how it came about.
That is awesome. So I'm wondering, how did you get into streaming flight simulator content? So you talked about how you started getting into it, but how did you get into streaming?
I got into streaming, to be honest, by being completely lazy. And let me explain that to you. So what happened is, at the time, there were streamers out there. There were people making flight sim content. And I was like, you know what? These flights I'm doing are interesting. Well, I thought my flights were interesting. So I'm like, I want to record my flights and I want to put it up on YouTube and show people what I'm doing too, because my flights are fun more than anybody else's. Well, it wasn't really, but that's what I thought. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to make videos. So I would set up flights. I would record them. I would narrate them. And then halfway through a flight, once I get to cruise, I realized that, oh crap, my microphone wasn't on. So I had to come back and reshoot the entire thing all over again and try to say the same things that I did before. That became tedious. Also, the file sizes were getting big on a long flight to go back and edit and then upload. And then I was like, all right, YouTube provides a basic editor. Let me use that instead. And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? How about I just live stream this up to YouTube? I'll go back, use that editor, and chop out the pieces that were bad or didn't work. And that's how my live streaming started. One person showed up, two people show up, and then, it went on from there. So that's how I got into actual streaming, was because I wanted to record videos and upload them, but I was too lazy to do the editing work that's required. So that's how I started. Yeah.
I feel like all of us have at one point dreamed about becoming like a popular YouTuber or streamer, but you actually made it become true for yourself. That's great.
And that's not really, what I envisioned, to be honest. I literally just wanted to make videos. But somewhere along the line, I started having fun with streaming and people started coming in and saying hi. And I just continued it. It was like, and I've made a flight video since. I've made a video since. Yeah, it's true.
So, how do you approach creating engaging and informative content for your audience? So how do you keep your audience watching your videos and people interested in your live streams?
It's a couple of different things. As a streamer, number one, you have to grab the latest plane that comes out, right? That's when new planes or new scenery, X-Plane 11 alone, because I didn't do P3D or FSX. It was new scenery that was coming out. I had to grab the new scenery. I had to go buy it. I had to look at it. I had to fly into it or fly out of it. So people want to see the scenery, right?
Yeah.
And they like that. And then it was the new plane. When the new plane comes out, people want to see that you fly the new plane. I used to fly GA stuff. I don't fly GA stuff anymore. But when the airliners came, I remember when Flight Practice came out with their A320 for X-Plane, it was like the biggest thing ever because X-Plane never had a good Airbus. You know what I mean? Back in the day, now we have so many different Airbuses. Like I can remember when X-Plane literally did not have a good A320 or any. Well, yeah, it did have one, but it was like fake or something. So you use sceneries, you use the plane. Sometimes it's the destination. Like for instance, you're going to do the river visual in DC. People want to see you crash, basically, right?
Oh yes, I've seen compilations of you crashing.
Exactly, or they want to see the LaGuardia Parkway visual or something like that, or they want to see you land in Paro, and then that's how I did to keep the audience going. Also, a lot of streamers who are just upcoming, they also one of the main things I did was I kept a schedule. Mondays, Wednesdays, Friday. People can always know that between 6:30 or 7:30 p.m. I'm going to be on Eastern time. So they look forward to either coming home or being at work or something. I say XP is going to be on. Let me go check out, see what he's doing today.
That's awesome.
And then later on, all the crashes and all the crazy stuff started happening.
Of course, yeah.
So
That's an automatic thing that comes with it, you know. The crashes,
Exactly.
you know, the fun stuff, the random things that happen. You know, sometimes you don't know what's gonna happen, and you know, sometimes it's also interesting because it's like you have the ATC with vatsim, and then you're also flying, interacting with you know, you're interacting with your community, and then sometimes you have some funny things happen on frequency. You know, pilots doing things, ATC being funny, and it's an overall fun environment.
Yeah, and you know the crazy part about it is that yes, speaking of VATSIM and chat at the same time, I have screwed up on radio calls. I have missed radio calls, which is a bad thing to do on VATSIM, guys. If you're listening, don't do that. Don't have the controller call you more than twice, especially coming into a busy airspace like LA or New York or Boston or something like that, or any airspace for that matter. But I guess over the years, I've learned to listen for my call sign and also interact with chat at the same time and try to fly the plane. And it takes time to build that. I still screw up from time to time. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, why people ask me, why do I always keep the same call sign? I always keep the same call sign because it's something I can remember. I can remember there's a guy called Cat Strader who used to stream. And he had a similar call sign, was .com something another he used to use. And it's like, okay, he can always. So if I'm talking to chat and I get a radio call, all I listen for is 2806, and nobody else really uses that call sign, you know. And I was like, okay, that's me. Let me listen up. And so that's how I do the interaction with chat and flying and you know and listen to ATC coverage and stuff. But it doesn't always work. But I try to do my best to do all three at the same time. I do really try.
That's great. I think one of the most debated topics in the aviation community, which like airplane manufacturer do you prefer, Boeing or Airbus?
Boeing. Prefer Boeing. Airbus is more advanced between the 737 and the A320. Airbus is more advanced. It is, but I like the Boeing because the yoke, man. The yoke is just something
Of course.
to fly. You know, the side stick is cool and all. You have to learn how to use that, different from a yoke. But I like the yoke. I like the feel of the yoke. Definitely, I do.
So, out of all the Boeing planes, which variation is your most favorite?
737. Period.
So
Yeah,
the
737.
Max, the 800, which one?
Right now, it's the Max. We don't have one in the sim anymore. There used to be one on X-Plane. There's none on Microsoft yet. I'm waiting for that to come. That's probably going to take a couple of years. But so right now, it's the NG. But the Max would be the one I prefer to fly at the end of the day. That would be the one. And for streaming and flying, it's a lot more fun because there's just a ton more switches to flip. You know, Airbus does it all for you. It's so automated in advance. You know, you screw up the panel for your what do you call it, your pressurization panel, you kill everybody at 10,000 feet. So it's more switch. Got to be careful. That's true. Absolutely.
So can you discuss a particularly memorable or challenging flight simulation experience you had while streaming?
Ooh, well, I mean, Most of the challenging ones come down to either a broken airplane or somebody forgot to put in enough gas and I had to like choose an airport to land on. That has happened to me before. Um, I've had bad landings. Well, many of those, absolutely, I have had. And then I've done some. I used to do a lot of VATSIM FNO Friday Night Ops,
Ah.
and having to hold and vectors and in and out and spacing and traffic and then go around and come back. One of my worst fears was to actually have to execute a go around because at the time I got so nervous on a go around. Like, okay, I go toga, then I go gears, and I go flap, or is it the other way around? And I try not to overshoot my altitude. Then I have to remember the heading that you guys give me to turn to. That used to be my biggest fear. So FNOs were challenging because it was so many people in the airspace, and if you screwed up you're gonna either get yelled at or you do something wrong. So it wasn't a specific flight, but that was the stuff that used to get me is the FNO. It was a lot of new people don't know about FNOs when they were huge, 200 people flying into an airport. So that more than likely would be the most challenging thing for me, honestly.
So, which airport or which RTEC do you like flying into the most?
Ooh, I hope I don't piss anybody off now. I hope I
Ooh.
don't piss off any controllers. New York. I like New York.
Okay, yeah, because the approaches are very, very interesting from what I've heard.
Very interesting. I like New York. I like how the controllers conduct, coordinating traffic between LaGuardia and JFK and so forth. Boston, those guys are hardcore as well. And LA now. LA also has its challenges. So the three major airports really. Boston, New York, LA. A lot of times I miss that transition on the LA. LA's got like a 30-mile final or something like that, 25-mile final. It's crazy. But New York is my favorite to fly into. I like the ATC coverage in New York. Absolutely do.
So, are you looking to actually become like a VATSIM controller, or are you already part of one?
No, unfortunately, no. Not looking to become a controller. I prefer being on this end of it, of actually being controlled. I'm not sure if I would have the patience to be a VATSIM controller, honestly. I don't know if I would be
Yeah,
able
I
to keep
agree
my
with you.
temper.
I'm a
You know,
controller, so I get what you mean.
it gets to a point now where I love having a lot of people fly with me, and it had gotten to a point where a lot more was flying, and a lot of new people coming in and thinking that VATSIM was easy, and they were missing radio calls. They were asked to repeat stuff. They didn't know what their airspeed was. They didn't know their Mach speed, and the FMC was broken. And then I found myself going, dude, I don't care about the FMC. Go ahead or do something. And so if I was a controller, I think I would get frustrated too. So I do empathize with VATSIM controllers, like having to deal with in a heavy. You guys teach when it's light, but you have no room to do that when it's heavy. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And so I don't think I could do it as a VATSIM controller. I like being, I like, I like being on the other end of getting vectors and stuff. It makes it
Yeah,
easier for me as a sim pilot.
yeah, I understand you. There is a high level of commitment and patience needed to become a controller, but at the end of the day, even being a controller is really, really fun. But I do have a question for you. So when you fly, you have a lot of fans that follow you to the airports that you're flying with, or they're flying back, just to meet you or to be on the stream. So how do you educate the pilots that fly with you to, say the correct phraseology? How do you help them and educate them on flying on the VATSIM network?
Two ways. One of the main ways, I actually did produce a video on VATSIM 101 for like basic for
Oh yes,
newbies.
yeah, I've
I
seen
did
that
that
video before.
newbies because I realized that a lot of people were asking or a lot of people are screwing up, and I try to I give them the idea of how I did it or
Hmm.
how I am doing it and see if they can follow it. A lot of guys have come back and say, "Yo, thanks for the tutorial. I like it," and that's just my style. Also, on my Discord, I set up a specific VATSIM chat just to, if you have questions, it's called VATSIM Flights, and it's still active
Hmm.
to this day. Where I would post the flights that I'm doing, people can discuss the route, they can discuss the departure, or arrival, or propose whatever is going to happen, and that was where I was advising guys, please, 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 if you're going to fly with me, please go here. And if you have doubts, if you have questions, go ask somebody how to do it. You know what I mean? Because I realized it was becoming a problem. I love people flying with me. I love the Congo lines, but I hated like, oh, it's XP's flying again. I'm not going to control that space because there's going to be people in there that's going to screw up badly. So I kind of felt bad, and it was reflecting bad on me. So those are the two things I did. I did a VATSIM section on my Discord, and I did a tutorial to kind of help and help the guys understand that it's not just jumping on VATSIM and flying.
Yeah.
And then you hear those cringe readback. You're like, oh god, it's not going to be good. So
Yes, I've actually watched your video on the vatsim tutorial before. It's one of the key videos that I used to get into flying because I became a
oh
controller first, and then I became flying. Tried to started flying. You were one of the streamers I used to watch a lot of the times. Just to see what's going on, and it looks like you're doing a great job at educating your viewers and teaching them of how to properly fly in the vatsim. But how do you incorporate viewer feedback and questions into your streams?
as far as like reading the chat from viewer feedback or questions or
Mm-hmm.
comments,
Yeah,
um, I mean, route requests. I look at all of them. I get tons of them all the time,
well, of
tons,
course.
even private messages. But if it's something that interests me as far as route requests, I will do it. And the person like, yeah, man, I requested that route. Thank you for flying it. Or if I don't do it right away, I'll do it down the line because I keep it in mind. Um, Viewer feedback when you're a streamer is important because they will tell you, hey, man, your microphone is muted.
Of course, yes, a
Oh,
lot
your
of them.
camera sucks or something, or your stream is stuttering, or they point out things to you that you even help you to fly the plane sometimes. Like,
Exactly.
dude, you,
Sometimes you don't know what is going on. You have a problem, or
yep,
maybe you forgot to lower your landing gear, and you're landing without the landing gear. They tell you that too.
yep, it's true. You know, so the thing about streaming that people don't understand on the streamer side, it might look simple, but you got so much going on your own computer and with your own sim and with all the windows that you have open that you have to make sure it works, and you're monitoring your own stream and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get overwhelmed. And so with the chat giving you feedback, it helps a lot. As for me as a streamer, it helps. What the chat participation helps a lot. It definitely does. So I take every feedback as a constructive criticism of like, dude, you could do this different, do this better, change that. So yeah, I appreciate all of it, man.
So,
Definitely.
with all this time you spend on streaming, how do you balance streaming with other responsibilities or commitments?
I'm not gonna lie, it can be tough. It can be tough. Ever since I set my schedule, I try to always stick with it. I'll miss some time here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with work. So what people don't realize is that I set my stream to be an hour and a half after my work day's over. So that gotta include my commute. That I gotta include coming home, greeting my family, spending some a little bit of time with them, taking a shower, setting up the stream. Believe it or not, the stream can take up to good 20 to 30 minutes to set up, depending
You got to
of
make sure everything's right. You got to plan out
oh
where
yeah,
you're going. You got to get the
flight
plane
plan.
ready.
Yes, the position on the airport ready. Oh, you're load up and you're like loaded up on somebody else when you open up that sim. Like, crap, I gotta go back and
Yeah,
move the plane. And
exactly.
so the balance is kind of tough, but that's why I do, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and try to get a day in between so I can one recoup, spend time with family, and then plan the next day and see what's going to happen. So it can be difficult
Mm-hmm.
to maintain it long term. In the beginning when you're gung ho, oh dude, you got energy for days to do that stuff. After a while, you
It's tough.
sometimes it's tough, yeah. But one thing is for certain though, every time you see me stream, I am enjoying myself.
Yes,
That's
we
certain.
enjoy watching you too.
Yep.
Sometimes these funny things are happening, or just it's an overall community.
Yep.
Well, I
Yep.
watched a lot of your videos, but what motivates you to stream like 3 times a week?
The 3 times a week came up because I figure 2 times a week wasn't enough. 3 times a week minimum, and maybe once on the weekend. When I get some free time, like when the wife
Mm-hmm.
goes out or
Yeah,
something. Like, yeah, I'm definitely streaming. Because I can't be at home just sitting around watching TV. If I have free time, it's going to be in front of the computer, and if it's going to be in front of the computer, I might as well put a stream on. You see what I'm saying?
exactly. Why not?
It's like that. Why that? Because I love it. I still love flight simming. After all these years, must have been like 3.5, 4 years. I still love flight simming. I still look forward to the new planes coming out, to the new sceneries coming out. I still look forward to just being in my virtual cockpit here and doing my thing. I haven't got to a point where I'm bored of it at all. I don't think it will ever happen. And I have to tell you, part of the difference is that I'm not flying by myself. There's people flying, there's people watching, and there's VATSIM coverage.
Exactly.
VATSIM is so important to me as a streamer and as just a regular flyer. I love getting the ATC because that makes everything different in every single flight you do. You could do the same route, but if you end up getting ATC control and other traffic, it's different because you have to deal with the line on the taxiway and the pushback and
It's a
a
lot more
different gate.
realistic.
A lot more realistic, yeah.
It's a lot more like fun experience. It's basically it's an experience. You don't just get into the simulator and start flying randomly. You have to actually like be a lot more focused. You have to communicate.
Yep, definitely. That's what keeps me motivated still after all this time.
Can you discuss any collaborations or partnerships you've had within the flight simulation community by any chance?
Yeah, I mean the one that everybody knows is me and Blue Games.
Oh,
Blue,
that's
yeah,
cool.
me and Blue. We do the Blue Experience, which is a podcast. Last year we started it. We're doing one live show a week. We have almost like 16 episodes. We interviewed the V1 simulation. We interviewed Captain Canada.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, we interviewed Phoenix before it came out for Microsoft Flight Sim.
That is
And
really
Phoenix
awesome.
Sim. We interviewed the guys who are making the CRJ. We interviewed Orbix, Mateus from Orbix, who's bringing out the A330 and a bunch of sceneries.
Awesome.
We interviewed VATSIM people too. We did a VATSIM show when everything was going on about, what can VATSIM do better and what the sim pilots can do better. And we had a show. That was last year. We took a little break. Now we're back again doing more shorts. That's just me and Blue collabing right there. I've done shared flight with other streamers. I shared flight with Captain Geo. I've done shared flight with Sim Aviator, where we'll both be doing dual streams doing that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
And
amazing right there.
oh yeah, I look forward to more of it in the future. Absolutely.
I think also a lot of your audience looks forward to a lot of those collaboration videos because they see, two of their favorite streamers, flight simulation streamers, are doing it together. They're flying together. I think it's a really cool experience for everyone involved.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I enjoy it. I enjoy collaborating with people too.
So before we end here, I would like you to tell us what is your number one piece of advice for new pilots joining the VATSIM network?
Pen and paper. Get pen and paper and write down all your instructions. And it sounds simple because until you learn the phraseology and what you've heard and you can actually internalize it and execute it without writing it down, it's going to be difficult. You're going to screw up on your calls. You're going to screw up on the instructions you were giving. Right turn 210 down to 4,000, cross so-and-so at whatever altitude. 3 different pieces of information. Pen and paper. I did it. I started using literal pen and paper. Then I started using my notepad on my computer to do that, to write it down in shorthand format.
That is awesome.
Right. Yeah. And secondary, I used to listen. I still listen to Live ATC, liveatc.net. I listen to. You can pull up almost all your airports and listen to the ground, the controller, the tower, the approach, the center, and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
I think one of the most important parts of pen and paper is overall just a lot of things you have to read back. For example, the clearance. A lot of times your clearance, you're not going to be able to remember every single little bit. And like, for example, your squawk code, like the departure frequency. It's good to write those things down to know them for later.
I still to this day write down every single one of my clearance. I still do. I'm looking at one right now for my last flight. It was, and this is what I've written. I'm looking at it right now on my computer. AF is as filed. So let's say I have the flight plan ahead of me. You're going to take the whatever departure and whatever transition. That's already written down on my flight plan. Then I write as filed, maintain 4,000. So I have AF 4,370. So that's as filed 4,000, flight level 370. Squawk code came next with 7724, and then the runway was 28 left. It's written down right here. I'm looking at it. No kidding. That was exactly what I got out of Fort Lauderdale yesterday when I flew on VATSIM.
That is amazing.
Yep.
I like to thank you for coming on tonight's podcast. It's been very fun. It's been very informative for the viewers, I think. Thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invite. I hope somebody learned something from this, but thank you so much for including me in your podcast, man.
Even
Absolutely.
I did. I learned a lot from just what 20 minutes.
Awesome. Awesome. I look forward to flying in your skies again, man. Appreciate it.